Hi, everyone. This is Paul Casey. Welcome to Sin City Halloween. Today, we're going to be reviewing and discussing one of our favorite franchises, the Ghostbusters. Obviously, I've dressed up for it. I hope you enjoy it. Please like our page, and if you can, share with others. And we look forward to seeing future discussions here at Sin City Halloween. Thank you very much. This is Paul Casey Entertainment. We're here in Las Vegas, and we're representing Sin City Halloween, our favorite holiday. I'm really lucky to have with me today my favorite person, Ralph Delgado. Ralphie is just a wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to the horror genre. Hello, Ralph. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, Paul? How you doing, brother?
I'm ready to bust, baby.
Let's do it. Let's bust. It makes me feel good.
Absolutely. And so we're going to cover the Ghostbuster franchise. We're going to talk about a few things. We won't review basically the movies in the sense of breaking down every aspect of it. That's done quite thoroughly on the internet. But I'd rather get into deeper on why and these things were created and who was involved and things like that. So let's take it right back to it. Let's go to it. Ralph, give us a background about the Ghostbusters. How it was created, the history of it.
All right. Well, which is actually kind of funny, you know, back in 1984, that is, you know, the name was already taken. There was already a show. There was a show with, I don't know if you remember it, but it was from Filmation, the same guys that did the cartoon, basically. But it was two guys and an ape, like this big gorilla. You know, and they would go and they would bust ghosts and witches and goblins and all that stuff. Well, I guess Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wanted to do better than that. So what they did was, one, Dan Aykroyd, his great-grandfather, or his grandfather, I believe it was, has a lot of experience in actual paranormal. So he basically baked on that and decided, well, let's go on ahead and let's write about this. Let's talk about ectoplasm, which, by the way, is like probably one of the first movies we've ever heard that. Ectoplasm, anything like that. So him and Harold Ramis from Second City decided to write this sign up. And that's exactly how it started out, actually, was them just talking about different things about, you know, it basically start with a premise. Let's talk about ghosts. Let's talk about this. And originally it was gonna be in like a parallel dimension, until they decided to go on ahead and put it into New York and all that good stuff, which I have with me right here, actually, which is a little bit more background feedback, is I have the scrapbook right here that has all of the stuff like that, and also a cool little throwback to Mr. Stay Puft.
So what we have now, so was it because you know, Dan was a friend of mine. I've known Dan for many years. I've done numerous events with him regarding the Blues Brothers and his Crystal Head vodka. He's a great guy. I mean, he's genuine. I love this guy because he is real, and he just has a passion for what he does. And when he does it, dude, there's no hesitating. Both feet are in. Okay, he's deep with this stuff, and So Aykroyd comes up with this idea. Do you think he approached Harold on this, or?
Yeah, what he did actually, and it was quoted by him, he did approach Harold about a lot of this stuff. And, you know, Harold was not a believer in a lot of this stuff, but he knew, you know, a lot about it. He was one of the very few people that Dan said that he's ever come in contact with he wasn't into spirituality or anything like that, but he understood a lot of that stuff, quoting all the way back to different type of paranormal events and stuff like that. You know, when they talk about certain accounts and stuff that they've had in the movie, or when they're referencing a certain ghost account that happened pre-tense, before them becoming a company, those are real accounts that actually happened, like the book stacking and stuff like that. That was a real account that actually happened.
The biggest problem, I think, when they were telling people, back off, man, I'm a scientist.
Right. When I was a kid, it was back off, man. I'm a Ghostbuster. I remember when
now that's the truth. Actually, it's funny. You look at that. So there was a lot of reference. Now we know that there was a great relationship between Aykroyd and Belushi, and they had worked in numerous movies together, and obviously Saturday Night Live. I believe. What was the background? So let's look at this. So when did this all start?
Well, before we head off to that, you just mentioned John Belushi. John Belushi is actually in the movie, and a lot of people don't know that, but he was already passed by the time. But so the character of Slimer.
Right, you're getting to my characters yet. We were going to get into that, dude.
Oh no, but we'll jump into that really quick. The character of Slimer was actually supposed to be John Belushi.
Sure, and I can see it. Animal House.
They totally took that.
Actually, I think Dan said he was supposed to be in Animal House, playing the character that rides the motorcycle, but that didn't.
Well, Animal House was also written by Harold Ramis. A lot of people tend to forget that, and they always contribute it towards John Landis, and it was actually written by Harold Ramis, which a lot of the greatest National Lampoon-esque type movies and stuff like that, Harold had his hands in it, big time.
So when was the first beginnings of Ghostbusters for
production of
as
Ghostbusters
we see today?
Production of Ghostbusters actually started in 1983 with Murray and Aykroyd in location in New York. What they did was when they first got to New York, before Dan actually met Bill Murray was his tour guide, and he took him through New York and stuff like that. And he was like, dude, this guy's actually really funny, to the point where that established a relationship for them to even bring him on SCTV and to establish him as a comedic kind of actor. And then they brought him into Saturday Night Live, which eventually he was replaced by Chevy Chase. But in 1983, that's when it actually started. The production of Ghostbusters actually started.
Okay, so then we had that, and was it always with Reichman?
Yeah, I think Ivan already.
Forgive me. Why don't we break down first of all before we go any further? Let's give some background real quick. Who are the characters in the Ghostbusters, and the person that played it, the actor?
I'll tell you the four. Our four main scientists is Bill Murray will be Peter Venkman, Dr. Peter Venkman. Dan Aykroyd is Dr. Ray Stantz, which is the heart of the Ghostbusters, as everybody will say. The people person would be Mr. Winston Zeddemore, played by Ernie Hudson. And the scientist of the group is Harold Ramis as Egon Spangler.
Okay. I read that at one time they had actually approached Eddie Murphy to play the character of Winston.
Yes, Eddie Murphy was actually approached, and so was John Candy. John Candy was actually approached to be Louis Tully, but
which
he
is
didn't. Rick Moranis.
Yeah, Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis' part. Apparently, he didn't get it. He wanted to play Louis Tully like a Russian, and he wanted two big dogs, and it would have taken away from the whole two big dog thing, the whole terror dog thing. So, too many dogs. But sure. I guess he apparently went ahead and passed that to Rick Moranis, and Rick Moranis read it and completely got it. Early production of Ghostbusters, also, like I stated before, it was going to take place in kind of like almost like the 22nd century, 23rd century, to where it was kind of futuristic and stuff. Mm-hmm. As you can see here in my excerpts, you have them all right here. Even the image of the Ghostbusters was going to be completely different. You see them wearing helmets and stuff like that, along with protective gear and stuff. And they would basically, instead of trapping ghosts, they were just eliminate ghosts. They were ghost eliminators, opposed to being ghost exterminators, as everybody likes to put them.
So let's walk through some of the things. Aside from, obviously you have the four, and then you had the supporting cast. You also had Sigourney Weaver in there.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, which I will say that throughout half of that movie, the movie is given to you by Rick Moranis. The way that he portrayed Louis Tully.
He's hilarious. That guy's funny. Sad thing is we can't. We can't. He's not working anymore, and it's like
no.
and that's here's a caveat, folks. It's hard to capture lightning in a bottle. Once you do it, you can enjoy it, you can see it, but the problem is to do that a second and third and fourth time is very difficult. The chemistry, I think the greatest thing is the chemistry of these characters and these actors came together. Now, mind you, it's 80s humor and it still resonates today, but it's genuine. It wasn't contrived or forced.
See, and that's a perfect point. Like right there, I think it's hilarious that they would consider him the keymaster, and if you notice, he constantly gets locked out of his house.
Yes,
but they call him the keymaster. Like, hilarious. I mean, his record alone is very, very extensive, all the way down from The Adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie, Strange Brew, the Flintstones, both Ghostbusters, all of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which I want to say there was like 4 of them. LA Story, Little Giants, Little Shop of Horrors, and stuff like that. Rick Moranis had a very extensive movie relationship, I should say. He was just a genuinely funny guy, and it was believable. Louis Tully,
he came across that way, and it's like I said, there's certain you have the characters that we've talked about before, and then subsequently there was 2 movies, but we'll get into that. But so we have that, so we know where it was, who created it, we know when it was created, we had the general premise. Let's break down these characters in the first movie, and then obviously, because of the great success of 1, Ghostbusters 1, which is 84, you had obviously 2, and now we have the direct sequel in the new one, Afterlife, and people love it, but we'll talk about that in a second. I have to say, I really love the dry humor of Harold Ramis. I mean, he deadpanned it straight up like a sign. I have a friend of mine. I'm not kidding you. They could have had the DNA from both of them. And he was a JPL. He's going to watch this. You know what I'm talking about, hey, Ron? And he's very deadpan, but he's funny. He's very witty. And that's the beauty of it, intellectual humor. And then you had the extras that came in. And you saw that relationship between him and the receptionist, Annie Potts. And what was her character's name?
Janine Melnitz.
See, and they brought her back in the second movie as well as in Afterlife.
Which I think is great, because even through the animated series, she always had something for Egon. But Egon never really, had anything for her, because when you see it in 2, she has it now for Rick Moranis. But I thought it was great that they actually touched back, because like we were saying, it is a direct sequel to 84, even though there are little tidbits from 89 from 2.
Sure. Well, I'm a fan of all of it. Obviously, growing up, we had, besides the movies, obviously there's all the good stuff like the merchandise and toys. My God, it's incredible. Here we are. We got proton packs. We have Stay Puft. We've got Slimer. We got the car, the Ecto-1. We'll get in on. I mean, what an incredible legacy for us to live, and we can share this with our children now. I mean, this is 30 odd years, almost 40 years ago, this movie came up, and I remember seeing it as a kid. So my son, actually, we went to see it. So let's go on more with this. And also the characters, there are several other characters that are obvious. You mentioned Slimer. We talk about the famous Marshmallow Man, better known as
Stay Puft.
And why did he come into this? Because of
Stay Puft was a character that a fictitious character that was brought about because of Ray's stance, because of him roasting marshmallows in Camp Wakanda as a kid, and he wanted to think of the thing that would hurt them the least. If you ask me, I really wish that they would actually banked on the whole J. Edgar Hoover. I thought that would have been hilarious, but again, I think it's incredible. Choose your destructor. And the destructor just happens to be a giant 150-foot marshmallow man. I mean,
they got it when they was camping. It wasn't over at Camp Crystal Lake.
Right? Probably.
Jason showing up. Oh my God. Did you see him look? I know you love him. So we're talking about, so we got that character, we got those guys. Obviously, all the CGI that was in there.
He's right here. We got Mr. Stay Puft right here.
I have actually mine too, and mine is right here. Folks, this is actually Winston's sign. That was Ernie Hudson, and it was given to my daughter Jovina And then obviously I've got Slimer here, and that was her. I have a very famous photo with her, and we have some other stuff here. This is all this was all done for my children because
Very
I'm a big child, and I know that
cool.
Ralphie is as well. So we sort of
Very.
lived through them. The inspiration. Remember, the most important thing is not these items. It's this moment that you create with your friends and your
Well, I took a
family.
vow when I was a kid, and the vow was I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
go ahead and I'll live by that until the day I die. I
And
really will.
look at you. You're all dressed up. I mean, come on. Think
Oh,
about this.
as you are too.
Absolutely. This is what Aykroyd
It's
saw. I had a conversation with him, and he envisioned something similar to what in the 70s and to this day, 50 years later, Elvis Presley impersonators. And
right,
but you're trying to be somebody. And
right,
in a Ghostbuster situation, you're still you. You're just a Ghostbuster now. And that's the
exactly,
beauty of it. So you still
exactly.
retain your own person, and it's beautiful. Then and the purpose of why you go out and do these things to
Which
support
is for me,
charities and
for
children and
me,
events.
Ghostbusters is universal, no matter what. I don't run into at least one person or talk to at least one person that isn't or is not a fan of Ghostbusters.
Sure.
It's a huge part of my repertoire as well. I mean, if I'm not Michael Myers on Halloween, I'm known as the Ghostbuster guy.
Good.
Because just
Good.
it's a huge thing. It's a big part of my life, and it's something that it brings, as cheesy as it sounds and very cliche, it brings my family together, and it really does. We
And it's
still watch
important.
these religiously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important, and it's funny as funny as it was the first time we watched it.
Here's a
Hilarious.
good thing though. The extended family that was created from this. You got to remember, if you look at the essence of what it was, a commercial venture, no kidding, but
Yeah,
creativity coming through a talented man bringing it to fruition. And if you ever get a chance to spend one-on-one time with Dan Aykroyd or Ernie Hudson, you'll see why they really enjoy the fans, because it's a love for something that we all can be. We can all play dress up, cosplay kind of thing, long before I guess cosplay really took off as it is. And the beauty of it, anyone can do it. Nobody holds the exclusive rights to exclude anybody. And if you show love and kindness toward others, you'll get that tenfold. So our characters, now we've talked about some of the big ones in there, but one of the biggest one that I'm a huge fan of, I always was a car guy. When I was a kid growing up, I loved watching Burt Reynolds. I knew Burt. He was a great guy. I told him I emulated him. And he said, how's that? And I saw you jump your car. And so I took my 65 Cutlass and I went off the loading ramp I'm not kidding you. I went off the loading ramp with the car and behind the grocery store. I was working as a clerk, and I went off and I landed. I was only doing 25. Thank God I wasn't doing 30. And I hit it and I landed, and the whole right front of the carriage collapsed, and the car power slid up to the fence, and there was an embankment there. Had I gone through the fence, I would have gone down into a pool
easy
about
there.
75 feet down, and it went. I'm like, holy! And all my buddies were watching, go, yeah! It was like, so I told that to Brittany. He goes, what made you do that? And I said, you. He gave me that thing. It was like, his laugh is great. So I've always been a car guy. And my daughter's godfather is John Schneider, Bo Duke. So obviously a relationship, Duke of Hazzard,
Oh, of course.
Smokey and the Bandit, Knight Rider, David Hasselhoff. So all these things, but I was a huge fan of cars. And it's really hard to find a 1959 Cadillac hearse or
Yeah.
ambulance, but the Ecto 1 is iconic for it. And honestly, Ralph, they couldn't have picked a better car.
Totally.
I mean, with the Dukes of Hazzard, they were thinking of using a Gremlin.
Well, I think is cool about that also is we get kind of like a little bit of an Easter egg when we first see the car show up, because originally the car was going to be black with everything was going to be purple, black and purple, which I thought would have been really, really cool. But it's just as iconic as it was 37 years ago when I first saw that car. The first thing I ever said, I'm from Burbank, being in a park, McCambridge Park, where they film Back to the Future, where Marty plays his guitar in front of Huey Lewis.
Sure.
I grew up right across the street from that park. I lived right across the street from it. had tons of birthdays there. I remember like it was yesterday. That's how iconic the car is. Walking with my friend down the way next to the tennis court, and it comes barreling around the corner and it's going up the street. And the only
Sure.
thing that we could do, there was no, oh my God, it was, yeah, all we could do was scream, Ghostbusters, oh my God. And, run
Sure.
as fast as we could so we could see it get up to Glen Oaks and then barrel around the corner again. We talked about that for weeks.
Yeah.
Anytime we walked into somebody at school, hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, man? Hey, did you see the new video game? No, but I saw it. Ecto.
Yeah.
What? We were the talk of the town that week, Ecto.
Funny you say that. With when I had the Ecto that I had from 2014, I got it at the end of 14, and so I had it. It was used as a promotion vehicle for the movie when it came out in 2016.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, it was the previous life. It had worked at Glendale, or no, excuse me, the Hollywood Hills Forest Lawn.
Forest Lawn. That's
For
where my
19
grandma
years, and it was originally all blue, and it was it actually transported about 25,000 people to their
Wow.
final resting. It never really left the park, as they call it, and a lot of famous celebrities that's their final ride. And then it went off to it worked for a small funeral home, and then later it was owned by a couple of private people, and then it was down in New Orleans at the Superdome Superdome, and
Wow.
And it was used there for the indoor football league, and it had it all laid out like the graveyard. It was purple and black and all that stuff. So when it came here, it was transformed into looking like this as I have it here. This is
Right.
64 version of it, and as you see it, it was a mine was an 82 Cadillac Superior. So it was exactly the same car that they used. It's just a
Wow.
promotion vehicle. And the beauty of it was whenever I drove this, after it was finally done, everybody would always come up and they want to look at the car and they got excited. And I sort of thought of, when you look at a funeral coach, a hearse, everybody gets weirded out from that. And I always remind people, listen, nobody ever died in that car. Right. They already were gone. I'm sorry. Yeah. But they're all like weirded out by that. I said, just think of it as like federal, FedEx is, delivering for people,
Yeah,
and they always want to say, can I look in? Can I see? And you open up the back, and I always said to them, who do you think you're going to find? Prince? Because I had to make it more modern. But the point is, nothing disrespectful to anybody there. But the point is that people get freaked out about that, and but they love the car, and the fact that it was white. I think the purpose of it being white sort of diminished and got rid of the stigma of, oh, that's death, that's bad. Right. Being white. Like it cracked me because I would be hanging out with the Hearst Club here in Vegas, and I was the Donnie Marie Osmond of the group. Everybody's just like, nothing to worry about him with the flashing lights.
That's great. We're actually in the looks of getting maybe a hearse soon. We don't know yet. We're still looking.
Good for you.
We found somebody that actually has a millimeter up in Yuma, but I'm really, really wary about, I think I talked to you about this once before. I'm really, really weary about getting it back here because we're in a complex. And the last thing I need is, go outside and there was a bunch of kids, jumping on, very cool, jumping on my Ecto. That's all I need,
Well, they will. Everybody touches cars. I mean, I've had 14 of them.
Definitely. We have what we do and by the way, everybody, I'm a part of a Ghostbusters group in Bullhead City, Arizona.
Why don't you tell us about that real briefly, and then we'll jump back into the discussion.
Actually, yeah, we're part of a nonprofit group. We like to raise awareness and whatnot around our rural parts of Arizona, Nevada, and California. So we're known as the Ghostbusters of 3 Points. We have ourselves, very close to the Ghostbusters 2 symbol. Ours is a 3 with the cautionary sign. The Ghostbusters of 3 Points, like I said, we raise awareness on top of just bringing joy. We really are. Like we're getting ready to be taking on our Christmas program, which is a little mini parade that we have around here. We're going to jump on that. And then after that's done, I'm going to show my son, it's always just like how we're always told when we were younger. It's not about what you receive. It's also what you give. We're going to take him over to the children's side of our hospital here. And we're going to gear up and, all the way down to we have a Ford Explorer that ends up turning into the Ecto OR. The Ecto
congratulations.
OR, thank you so much. The Ecto OR is the Ecto Off-Road. What we do, like I said, we push it. We push it to the limit. We want people to feel that. And I mean, Halloweens and stuff like that, that's always fun. But to be able to go on ahead and give back as a thank you for helping us get to this next level where we're at, we like to always just bring in the charitable events and stuff like that.
So, I can relate to that. I did numerous parades and whatnot. The car that I own now is in Chicago, and it's used for displays and things like, and you know what? With me, the Las Vegas Ghostbusters are just a social group that people go on there and they get to exchange. There's not this competition thing. I look to support everybody. So if you're in Bullhead City, or you're in Los Angeles, California, or in Stockton, California, you're in Austin, Texas, you're down in Clearwater, Florida, or in, somewhere else. It doesn't matter. I will support you because I believe in the purpose of what we're doing, and that is to help. And my daughter was the reason I do all this, the inspiration. And this holiday season, we should always be looking at giving thanks that we're here to do this and enjoy these things and create what I call perfect moments, because this will resonate with people in future. So now we're going back to the movies, and obviously Ecto 1 was created, and it's one of my favorites. I love the license plate up there. I used to have that. That was actually on the car here in Las Vegas. And the point is that we've got this going again. So let's get into something about the story. So you obviously talked about the backstory of how it was created, and then they started. They had to whittle this thing down to make it more conducive. And a lot of people don't realize that actually the Ghostbusters story is a comedy. It's a fun thing. It's silliness. And, you look at the character breakdown. As you said, the heart is Dan Aykroyd, no doubt. I mean, if you get a chance to see anything that he's done, you'll understand that. Then you look at somebody like, Ernie Hudson. He's just great support. And he's the intellectual smart guy that's street savvy about trying to get things going. And he was a driver of the car. He made sure that, that vehicle was taken care of. Then you get Harold, who was amazing with his scientific ideas. It cracked me up how they would taunt him, but he didn't take it offensive. He would always, it was like, okay, it was like serious. And then you had the smart ass Bill Murray. And honestly, Bill Murray is the comic genius of making things flow. I don't know how much of that was improvising. You probably know better than I, but I'm telling you, there's some things that
80% of Bill Murray was improvised in that film.
Really?
Yes. That's how good he was. The only time that they had a really big problem was when he was introduced into, obviously to Dana Barrett, Miss Sigourney Weaver, when he goes to her house the first time and you see him mess with the piano. That part right there that was him, pure genius. They hate this, do that. He couldn't be funny after that because he already did that. So they spent take after take after take to finally Ivan Reitman jumped out of his chair and said, "Be funny, do something funny." And then he finally, that what we see now is exactly what he did afterwards. Even walking around with the pump and all that. I mean, that was all improvised.
That cracks me up, especially when he goes into the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And she doesn't look like she's eating bad.
I like everything about it, because, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He is just like how we explained with in our Halloween podcast about Annie and Linda. He's the guy that's looking over Ray's shoulder and copying, his paper, or Egon, and copying the thing just to pass himself through. He's a shitty scientist. He's more of a
I don't think he's a scientist. I think he's a slick, she says. What does she call him?
A game show host.
Exactly. He's just a con. He's playing the role like, hey, this is my new shtick and I'm going to use it because I can make it. Because how are you going to check it on? How do you know? How do you validate? How do you verify?
Which I thought
But it was
hilarious.
great.
Are you sure that you're using this right? And his line exactly, well, I think I'm doing it. Okay. And then, he doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's great, because that also, that not only does it, it kind of grounds you, it humanizes these people, because not like every other movie, usually every other movie, it's the four scientists that get together that are brainiacs and they can get this and do that and do that. There's only one. Winston and Ray to me are very, or Winston and Peter to me, excuse me, are very me. I'm the smartass. I'm the street savvy guy. So when I'm listening to these two talk, it's real, and that's what I love about it so much.
Well, you get it. I'm going to guess that when he got hit with the slime, he lay there. And did you see the enthusiasm, Aykroyd? He's like, "Oh my God, this is great."
What I think I'm like, what's awesome about that scene also, when they shoot at the cart, and the cart that goes up, that's her genuine reaction. What the hell?
I don't doubt it.
She had no idea that the prop department was going to overstuff that. They overstuffed it with pyrotechnics. So
sounds
when
familiar
it
in a lot of things.
When it went up, it wasn't supposed to go up like that. So when she says, "What the hell are you doing?" that was her genuine reaction, and it makes it even greater. And then once we're finally introduced into Slimer, and when he sees Peter and go at him, before he hits him, it's that green glow. Right. That, I don't know why. I crack up so much. That just, oh my God, hilarious.
Well, you get into it. You go back a couple of steps when they're standing on the steps of the New York Public Library and they're sitting there drinking.
Yeah,
I mean, the wrong location. That's what they're doing.
Peach schnapps. Yeah,
yeah, and he's drinking, and I generally believe they were getting schnockered. I'm telling you, right? Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is.
He did that. I think the talk Ray into actually getting up his mortgage into the house. Like.
Well, that's because he had the passion. He was so he believed in this so, and he was he fell for what Murray's line. So it gets in. So we get into that. We get the story going. Let's develop a little bit. So I think it would have been nice, personally, had we seen them do a few things and fail at first, and then how we got into evolving into the coveralls, the Ecto evolving into this. But it was a great reveal. It was a great reveal.
It is a great reveal. We do kind of see that, when they first start, when they hit the public library, they're basically winging it.
Sure.
They're going to go, and they already got the call and probably told this dude like, "Oh yeah, we're paranormal, investigators." When at that point in time, and like there was no such thing as that yet. Dan Aykroyd said himself while I just watched him on Jimmy Fallon, and he even said, "Our movie, think about a movie before that actually mentions ectoplasm. There isn't one." And
well, they created a new genre and with terminology.
I think it finally opened the door to paranormal investigators, into the paranormal. I myself, everybody at least one time in their life, regardless of what anybody has to say, you will have one of those weird feelings or something. Sure. Have some type of experience or whatever you want to call it. I think to be able to be like, well, we need like a PKE meter or an EMF detector or whatever, that those aren't fake. Those are real things that measure, the different.
So obviously they went in and they did some research to find things, and then they just modified it so they could use it.
Dan's grandfather was a part of an actual society of guys that basically were Ghostbusters, and they did this type of stuff, not trapping anything, but they would go and, they believed in fortune telling and stuff like that. They believed in the paranormal. They studied it, all the way down to, which I would suggest anybody that's watching this, including you, Mr. Casey, why don't you go on ahead and after this, look up some of the stuff that Dan Aykroyd talks about. It's so intriguing because it's not fake. I mean, all the way down to like when he talks about the ecto, when he's talking about the things that are on top of the ecto, you know, the EMF scrubber and stuff like that. Everything has a meaning. Everything has a part. Everything has something that is real. It's plausible.
Sure.
I mean, that's insane to think that. And it's not him just making it up off the top of his head. It's because that's how it was written. That's how it was done. You know,
sure.
and it's amazing.
So let's move on to a couple other points. And I'm going to pause you right there for a second. It's just a pause. So let's continue on with some thoughts here. We're going to talk about two more factors on it, and which are essential because they're revisited later in this part 2, and then obviously in Afterlife.
Right.
And because I'm trying to relate to these. So let's go to the next part, which is so essential to the movie. You know, you think about a movie and you don't realize that there's the sound and the absence of sound. And because of that, it helps the dramatic pauses like I just did. So
right.
You think about this, and we're going to talk about the title track, the Ghostbusters theme, created by
Ray J. Parker.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bit of a story behind that, which, you know, it's funny. I worked with Huey Lewis several times.
I was just about to say that.
Well, I don't bring that up with him, but you know, it's obvious. You know, I got a new drug, which has got that same thing going on, and
it does.
It's sort of funny, but we are musicians, and
when
for those of you that are not,
it was I want a new truck when I was
there's
a kid.
there's only 8 notes, folks, in a total. It's just variations of them, how they're applied and whatnot. And it's amazing that we have that. So now we have the title track, Ray Parker Jr. Tell us a little bit about the theme song.
I think, you know, I think the song does more explaining than I could ever do. I think, honestly, aside from what we know, the backstory about basically
how it was created, right?
Yeah, not being borrowed, but
influenced, inspired.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so. That to me, that song is what makes it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you hear that first, you know, that sets the tone. That is, I mean, aside from Elmer Bernstein, that sets the tone and just, such a classic. I mean, still to this day, I mean, there isn't a Halloween party that I can go to that won't eventually come on and people won't look at me. Do the dance. You know, it's something, you know.
Sure.
Like, that's another phenomenon in itself.
Yeah, they did the music video down in you know, right down there in Times Square. Yes. And it's sort of, you know, let's face it, the 80s was a fun time. It was actually nothing more than a revisiting the 50s with the 50s, early 60s with a little more swagger.
I explain that to my son a lot because, as you can tell nowadays, I mean, stuff from our childhood and whatnot is very, very much sought after now, to the point where we're seeing things from 36 years ago, you know, being rehashed. Yeah, you know, we were just talking about before, watching Luke Skywalker, you know, basically be the Master Jedi finally, and stuff like that, and seeing that finally, you know, I kind of had to let my son down a little bit because he was showing me things that were like bright colored and very, I don't know, like the triangles with the square looking things and stuff like that. And I told him, I was like, you know, the 80s really didn't look like that. He's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, do you remember how it is? And I used Ghostbusters as a reference. I said, do you see how the cars look? And do you see how they're dressed and stuff? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's what the 80s really look like. And he was just like, whoa. He's like, Dad, you're old. I was like, thanks.
You know, don't worry, I had the same thing for my son. He gives me that time. So,
you know, I have to ground him every once in a while. Not ground him like you're in trouble, but bring him back down to reality and be like, you know, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing, like in Stranger Things and stuff, like it kind of looked like that, but it was a little bit more dull. You know, it wasn't as, you know, I don't know, like not like how you see in like the flashback 80s restaurant or whatever. I mean,
Sure.
it really didn't look like that.
Well, that
You know,
leads us into the merchandise and everything else. You know,
yeah,
everybody was looking for some kind of, you know, as always, everybody's always looking for their 15 minutes of fame.
right.
And
Well, I
we have
believe that
lives and we have to live, you know, and try to enjoy it. And that's what we do.
this 15 minutes of fame will
Hmm.
live on. I
Oh,
really,
absolutely.
this will not. I mean, look at behind you, look at behind me. This is I mean, I even have this tattooed on me. That's how, you know, how much it is to me, like how much it means to me. I just feel that, you know, uh, this is universal, and it will
Sure.
always be universal, no matter
Sure.
what. I just
That's beautiful. Well, so we get to it. So now let's talk about we've dealt with the iconic characters
right,
from people that created it behind the scenes, the characters that were portrayed in the movie, the supporting cast as well. We've talked about some of the other characters like the car, Slimer, and such. And we talked about the glue, which is the music, which it keeps it together. I mean, it's just it makes it's bouncing, it's fun, and whatnot. So let's look at some pros and then some cons about 1984. And then, folks, we're going to gravitate from that. We'll briefly touch on part two, which I really think is just an extension of one. And
a
and then
little
we'll
bit.
go to the afterlife, which is the
Sure.
new one for everybody else. Because if you're coming into Ghostbusters now, and that is a wonderful thing to do, I don't care at what age, to be exposed to this. You need to know a little bit of the background. It's like learning how to play a guitar. And you
Right.
look at all the greats that were before you that established certain influences till today. And you see somebody that plays a Jimi Hendrix lick or a Eddie Van Halen lick or you know, or Stevie Ray Vaughan. Those are three major. Eric Clapton. You go back, who influenced them, and you go back past them, and you look at the guys, the blues players, and then the
Yeah.
'50s
Buddy Guy,
rockabilly
Muddy
guys, and
Waters.
then you go even further back, and when you think about it, classical music is what really influences all rock pop music, but we don't know that unless you go back
Definitely.
and study. Remember, you got to take the instrument away and remember what the note is, and the note will stay consistent. It's just a tone thing. So let's go and look at the pros and cons of 1984. First of all, the pro is they had created an iconic movie to this day is beloved by billions of people, not millions, billions of people around the world are exposed to this in some way or another. And it's mostly most of the time I say it's revisited during the holiday of you know, Halloween, but
Yeah.
or anything spooky. We like spooky things. We like scary things. We go to this. We'll go to the amusement park and we'll ride the rides that scare us, but we know they're safe. We'll go to the
Right.
movie theater and watch it. There's the genre of horror itself is completely different than this. This is a comedy. So
Yes.
as long as we understand that and they address it and they're serious, they believe what sells it, I think, is the fact that every one of the characters, they had chemistry there. As you said, even if they were improvising, they had that glue there and it worked. And when they
Yeah.
walk on the screen, magic happens.
Oh, definitely.
Magic happens.
Captivating.
So you got an iconic movie that's still today. It's viable today. And it had offshoots, which are what are the offshoots, Ralph?
Well, the animated series, I would
And how many
say,
are there?
even we have two incarnations of the Ghostbusters. We have the 80s classic, the real Ghostbusters, and then we have which I think is tremendous, is the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Okay, so
With
we have those two,
Ghostbusters Extreme.
and you
What's
can
that?
still see those. What else do we have
Yeah,
that
you
are
could definitely still see those. And then we also have the reboot, which I mean, it's not a
well,
fan
no,
favorite.
stop back there. Stay back there. What else resulted from it before the reboots or the direct sequel? You had what? You had the games.
Oh yeah, yeah, the video
Okay,
games too.
so,
Yeah,
so you had the animation. I'm trying to keep with the animation
right.
idea and pinball machines and
Yeah,
other electronic stuff. And
yeah,
I mean, that all there. And then you have what? The comic books,
definitely.
you know, and then you have merchandise.
I mean,
So I mean, this look at this evolved from that.
it's such a huge franchise that it's very
Insane, and it's
it's
all run
very,
down there. Is it still out of Sony?
and I said, yeah, and I want it all.
You're funny. So now we go, and because of that, obviously, political and social issues do arise, and sometimes in the entertainment world, they come through our entertainment.
Yes.
I always believe that entertainment, movies, books, anything like that should be just forget reality and go into a new
Right.
world so that we can deal with reality, even a
Right.
gentle diversion, or
Which that's exactly what we say also when we're watching movies and stuff. It's almost kind of depleting at times when you're watching, because you want to stay in that world sometimes.
Sure. I think the idea of the reboot in 2016, the problem with it is that it had the modern technology. There's some special effects that were very good. I really liked, and I thought some of that was very cool. The chemistry was lacking between the actors. Okay. Yeah. But I didn't reject the movie. I just saw it for what it was. It was just simple entertainment for me. And it's hard because it's sort of like comparing. How do you compare something new to the original? It's almost impossible. And Aykroyd had this conversation with me. He said, "Paul, we have to move on. It's time to move on." And he saw that. But the cameos, I don't think cameos are going to save that. And just some of it just was flat. That's all.
For me, it started with this and it ended with this until we got Afterlife. I mean, granted, yeah, we had, like we just stated, we had the animated series and stuff. We had video games and all the other stuff. But always in the back of my mind, it was I need these four, but now three individuals to get back together. I need.
So that's the only thing I can think of. But what other pros? I mean, we've hit on 84 as it is the foundation, it is the base, it is the original.
And that's what people love. More pros that we had with the 84 also was, it. How would I be able to say it? It showcased each actor's talent and what they had to bring to the table. I mean, you had the fast wit of Dan Aykroyd. You had like we said before, the sarcasm of Bill Murray, and then you also had the comedic timing and writing of Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd together. I mean, anybody could say, I'm going to make a Ghostbusters movie. I mean, like we just said with 2016,
right?
That's why that didn't go. That was the con out of that whole series, was that because you didn't have that in the mix. None of that was in there at all. And look at how depleted that movie became, all the way to the point where people such as myself, we don't even acknowledge it. We delete that right there, deleted. Like, I don't even pay attention to that. I really
Well, a lot
don't.
of people do that with a lot of franchise, sequels that come about and the continuous. I mean, obviously the most obvious one to me would be Halloween. When you get past 2, I mean, he died. He was fried. Okay. I mean, I don't know about you, but he was done.
I know purists even more so than us, to the point where they're like 1 and 2. That was Halloween. Exactly. There is no other Halloween. The rest of them are just, that's garbage, and I can understand it, but I take it in, like how we were just saying, I take it in stride with different things. 4, 5, and 6, that's about the thorn.
Well, the analogy for me would be simple. You go to your favorite buffet in Las Vegas, and we have the greatest buffets. You have all kinds of cuisines. You have your Mediterranean, you have your Italian, you have your Mexican, you have American, you have Chinese, Asian, whatever it is. There's different. You have your desserts. There's beverages. Right. You have anything there. You cannot consume all of it. We know that. But you can go in there and you can try a little bit of it, and the buffet offers that to you. Okay.
Right.
Depending on your palate. If you don't like it, you just ignore it, and you go on. But at least it's out there. And for those that would like that, I agree that that's the best thing. I just don't like when people start to bash or hate things because of social issues. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Okay. Right. I mean, There's certain people that are vegans that won't eat anything but that. There's people
Right.
that are vegetarians. There's people that won't eat any meat at all, whatever it is. The point is that, they have to have it processed or something. The point is simple. There's an opportunity for you if you want to go and look into the franchise. It's still there. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
Yeah.
you don't. So let's move on. Now let's go to our next thing. We're looking at the sequel, which is Ghostbusters
Tremendous movie.
2.
Tremendous movie.
Why did it take so
Love
long for it to come out?
I think it was already on that whole plateau thing where, it was in '89. A lot of movies really didn't rely on sequels still at that point. I mean, even segueing into the early '90s, I mean, there was a lot of movies that you didn't think needed a sequel. Like I remember the first time somebody said that about the Terminator. They're making Terminator 2, and I was like, that's not going to work. I mean, I was one of those people. That's not going to work. But look at Terminator 2 now. That was one of the most highest rated action films to date now. I mean, it still.
Well, I believe that movie actually exceeded the first one.
It did. It did. I'm probably one of the very few that can say, they're kind of with part 2. Like, I mean, there was things in part 2 that I just think is tremendous. Like the mood slime. I love that. I love that whole aspect. I love the whole aspect of Vigo the Carpathian. I think that's cool. The whole painting thing. I think that's just amazing. Granted, it relied on some things, not as much as 89 or 84. I mean, but we still got a little bit of a taste of Louis Tully, but they even pulled out a lot of his stuff.
Well, they did some, it was pretty much the same things. They just substituted.
Well, what I think is what is a little lame, which I thought that they should have done, but we were just watching it last night, actually. We went out and got some food and we came back. And since Afterlife has been released, a lot of, never before seen footage has been released now for part 2. And, there's a whole sequence of Lewis running throughout the whole firehouse trying to capture Slimer with a proton pack on, and him shooting it at him and whatnot. Like you get to kind of see that in the credits. In the end credits, they're showing you deleted scenes. A lot of people don't know that. They think that it's just it's just them showing the character his name and then them smiling or whatever. No, those are little excerpts from deleted scenes and whatnot. And I just think that's so awesome to be able to see that. There's more to that film than there really has been shown.
Well, the best part in direct sequels is the Easter eggs that show up. Oh, I want to see that again. Well, you're going to do that. We're looking forward to it. And then it's like enjoying your favorite meal or your favorite experience of anything.
See, with 2, yeah, I mean, a lot of people were like, well, I can't believe they're gonna try to bring the Ghostbusters back or whatever. And it's like, well, think about it. In part 2, they already moved on themselves. Only Ray and Winston are using the vehicle to go and do parties and stuff like that to bring in a little bit of cash. Aside from that, Winston's already out of the thing. You don't know what he's doing, but it turns out, after, spoiler alert, but with Afterlife, you see what he's been doing. Ray has the bookstore still. I mean, in the beginning, but still, Egon's at the Institute doing his own thing, being his own scientist and stuff like that. And then look at Peter. Peter is now the game show host or the TV host that he was supposed to be, like they moved on from it. And then everything just kind of comes back with the whole baby Oscar thing, which even that in itself, I mean,
they never alluded to who the baby belonged to, did they?
It belongs to the guy that Peter talks to in 1984 when he says that he's going to bring the basically the evidence of what he's going to bring the evidence of what's haunting Dana to dinner or wherever else. And he goes, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, sir. You're looking very pale. The guy that's sick, that's spraying the stuff.
Yeah,
that's Oscar's dad.
Okay.
And they even say that.
I think 2 is a good movie. It's enjoyable, and it brings a lot. I like the idea of how it was interesting because it all came back together again. The
Oh,
community came
tremendous
together.
movie, man. Tremendous movie.
Yeah,
I love it.
So, you know, it satisfied, here's a good example. It satisfied your desire as a Ghostbuster fan. And that's the beauty of it. That's the good thing about this stuff. We can now watch this stuff and look at it and enjoy it and share it with our family.
Well, check this out, Paul. Like for me, you got to remember, I was born in '85. So I came out a year after the first Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters has always been a part of my life. I was able to see part 2 in theaters, and that to me was, you know, there they are. When I was a kid, I would scare my uncle because he would be in the other room playing video games, and I'd say, "My uncles are here." And he'd be like, "What the hell?" And I'd be like, "Oh, they're out in the living room." And he would come out, and I'd be watching the animated series. That's my Uncle Peter, and that's my Uncle Ray. And, you know, I'd always tell him all this stuff. So to be able to see them on the big screen, I was just so blown away by that. It was one of the very first movies I could say, watching at 5, that it made me laugh. Even though I didn't really understand the jokes, it still made me smile and laugh. And it also scared me. The whole train sequence and all that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. But I loved it, you know? I mean, so Ghostbusters has always been a part of my life, no matter what. No matter what. I can't remember a time where I didn't have like the original figures, which I have the new ones that just came out. They're like a revamp of the original. And then I also have the actual originals from '84. You know, it's always been a huge part of my life. It's been something that
well, I can see we're ready to believe you.
You better. You
and you know what? That's the beauty of it. It's the passion, because it's like anything. People reflect on music. Forget music videos; they sort of fall into the wayside now. But when you hear a song, a reflection of a moment in your life, you go, "Oh, I remember that came out. I remember, you know, what I was doing when this happened, etc., etc." I mean, as a guy growing up in Southern California, I was, you know, introduced to so many of these great things. And now as a dad, I get to share that with my son, and it's fun. So we've got 1 and 2. Again, I think of them as, you know, the extended version of one movie. You actually, if you were to watch them, it'd be best to watch them back to back to really get the depth of it. It's sort of like watching Halloween 1 and 2. And if you do that, then you get satisfied, you know. And
I remember it's 5 years
experience.
after though. I always have to tell that to people, because people think that it's like a few months later, and it's like, no, it's 5 years later. Like it's different.
It is a bit. It is. It has its moments. So we look at that. The pros on it is it established something for the, you know, the entertainment world. And the only thing is that I think the executives that run these studios fail to understand. They don't listen to the fans. They put their fingers on the pulse. We wouldn't have as many travesties, and they wouldn't be doing things just for the buck.
Yeah.
And it seems like all they want to do is reboot because they can't think of anything original. But even when they do a reboot, they don't get it right. They fail. That just because you have you paint your car red doesn't make your car better. It doesn't make it faster and more valuable. It just means
grease, man. It takes more than a coat of paint to run on Thunder Road.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking at it. So let's move on. Okay, so now there's the new movie came out, and it was actually supposed to be, it was supposed to be released, I think, 2 years ago, correct? The Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah, Afterlife, yes.
And so let's talk about that real quick. We have new characters. We have a new director. We have a new location. We do have the beauty of having Ecto's back.
I believe that movie legit had the torch passed to the right person. We're going to go ahead and give away some spoilers and stuff.
Well, let's go back through the same thing we did before. So obviously we have Aykroyd's there. We have Murray. We have, you know, Hudson. We're missing Harold. He passed away, sadly. Sadly. And you did have in the credits, you did have a cameo appearance of Sigourney Weaver. She was there. Annie Potts made an appearance in the beginning of the movie, and then again at the end.
Yeah.
You know, Rick is not there. He's not in there.
Yeah.
So that's sad. I wish he would, but you know what? You can't
Right.
have everything. And so we have it. But we have some characters now. We have a new cast. And most of it are young kids, except for the mother and the teacher. So why don't we walk through that real quick? Who are our casts in the new movie?
All right. Well, our new cast, we have the world's sexiest man, Mr. Paul Rudd.
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Very funny character. Mr. Gruberson is actually very funny. I like that. We have Carrie Coon, who's playing Mechanic Ray's mom and Finn Wolfhard's mom. What is it? Carrie Spengler. That's what her name was.
Yes.
And then we have Phoebe, who is played by McKenna Grace, and then we have Trevor, who is also played by Finn Wolfhard, and we have Podcast, which we're doing here, played by Mr. Logan Kim. And may I
gotta say that kid is funny. He
was good. He was
the chemistry between him and Phoebe.
Yeah.
Podcast and Phoebe is hilarious.
My wife looked right at me while we were watching, and she leans right into me and she goes, "This kid is fucking hilarious." I said, "He is." I mean, think about it. He's basically kind of he's a mini Dan Aykroyd almost,
sure.
He's very quick-witted, even Jason Reitman said the same thing. This is Logan's first movie. And when he came on set like he was a seasoned actor. What are we doing today? And what's for lunch? And very just, he was there. He needed it. And he did it. And I must say, he was kind of a standout little star in that. And I thought it was really, really funny. I believe the opening was exactly what we needed. And instead of it being just like the first two movies with the scroll of Ghostbusters, it just immediately opens quick-witted, fast pace. It went into something where like, what's going on? And you immediately see Harold Ramis, and that
you see the character Harold.
You see Egon there.
And they don't really reveal. We just see the silhouette. We understand he's there.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're seeing
who it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that it wasn't like we're going to let you know slow. We're just right there, and you're going, "What's he doing?"
Well, those who are into obviously, when you saw the silhouette of him, we all knew immediately with the big hair. We knew immediately this is Egon. I thought it was one of very few, because it didn't retcon anything really. I mean, even Jason even came out and even said that even though we don't talk about the events of part two has not been erased.
No, so you can tell it's implied in certain ways.
Well, apparently the dancing toaster is actually in the kitchen and stuff.
Okay.
So they don't show it, but it's there. And then so is Ray's Occult and stuff like that, the bookstore and all that. That's immediately plucked from part two, which I think is great. I mean, that'll probably be for the sequel. Maybe Vigo comes back this time. Who knows? But I just thought it was so, like you were saying once before. I read on the Las Vegas Ghostbusters that it was a necessary film, and it was also like a love letter to the fans.
Absolutely. There's no question, because there was such a disappointment after 2016 with such anticipating that there were going to be something great, and it failed miserably for the fans. And this is one time where you did create something fresh based on the original concept with little Easter eggs here. Like we did have Ecto was there. We did get the ghost traps. We did find the proton. We got the goggles. Podcast wearing the goggles. I gotta say, wear those goggles, friend. And then he has, and he gets the little Polaroid comes out.
Like I said, when I saw this again, to be able to see the afterlife Ecto, and then now we have on top of it, we have new features with the gunner seat and all that stuff. On top of, now we have the remote control trap and all that. And I thought it was just such it was literally a kiss. It was just, every little thing was a kiss you didn't need to have, the original stars, even though we get to see them, which
Well, we'll get to that in a second there. You're getting ahead
yeah,
of me there.
uh,
Let me interrupt for a little bit. So I want to stay real focused on this to get this in. So we have these new characters. What did you think of the chemistry between, say, the children, that were and their mom?
when I first was watching, at first, I didn't like Carrie Coon's character.
Okay.
Like I was just like, she's ungrateful, very just kind of bitter, but you have to take into account what's going on, like her father abandoned her. So
Sure.
that was kind of like the drama-esque type scenes for the movie. It was basically this mother is going through shit right now.
She got thrown out of her place. She's evicted. She can't keep it up.
2 kids by yourself,
she was abandoned.
now, yeah, and now you got to relocate to this old condemned, dirt farm. I mean, I started to feel for her after a while, and then just the relationship between her and the kids, it was believable. It was very believable.
Did you what about the relationship that later happened between her son and the young lady that was working at the drive-through?
I thought they could have touched on it a little bit more.
Yeah, I didn't see any chemistry there. I mean, he was fascinated with her, but
I mean, well, she even said that she had a boyfriend,
right.
So it was kind of okay. It was already implied, like, don't try to get, I'll be your friend, but don't try to think you're going to get lucky, with no pun intended.
Right. Well, he was how old is he? He was only 15, right?
He's only 15 and she was 17.
Yeah, forget that was going to work out.
Yeah.
Maybe in about 20 years. Okay.
But yeah.
They'll gravitate younger at that point. So, but I got to tell you, the weight was on Phoebe. That actress, she was amazing. She was strong. She carried that. I got to tell you, and it was beautiful. Some of the things that they visited there. I mean, we don't have to get into all the deep story, but just the essence of the story. This is why this sequel, immediately direct sequel, worked, because it was built on it, and it had a new story, and it had new characters that weren't, completely abandoning what was there. And I love the idea that her grandfather was there to assist her in many ways. There's, you have to, you can watch the movie, folks. And if you've watched the movie, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Spoiler.
I did enjoy, one of the things is the joyride when they took out Ecto.
Yeah.
He's going, when he went through the cornfields, holy crap. That was, like I said, this guy is going Dukes of Hazzard on us right now.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy. I mean, Night Ride. He was doing all that, going crazy in that car, which was falling apart.
Right.
I mean, it was rusted. The beauty of how patina it was cool that it was still, it's like a vintage guitar.
Yeah.
It didn't, just because the paint wasn't all great anymore, it still had the magic, and it was waiting to be played by, somebody that could make it sing. And he got out there and he was doing his business. And then, like I said, when you had podcast was in there, and the remote control, and Phoebe whips out and they're chasing after the new Slimer. He wasn't Slimer. He was
Muncher,
which I don't know who that was supposed to be based on. He was blue. So that was sort of interesting.
That was based off of Reunited Apart's host, Josh Gad. Josh Gad is the guy that actually is made a very, very big name for himself by taking old films that you don't really see anymore, or stars that you don't see anymore, and bringing them back together all through, like what we're doing here, through Skype, Zoom, whatever you want to call it. And it's called Reunited Apart. And
did you like Muncher?
I liked the idea of Muncher, but it seemed too I mean, you got to get the Ghostbusters in there, you know what I mean, to understand what you're doing, I guess. But it seemed too cliche to me.
Sure, yeah. It's funny is that it was him doing his business as sort of just changed the location, but it's like when they went into in the Segway Hotel. And by the way, if you look at the script on the outside of that hotel and you look at the drive-through, it's the same So
Yeah,
I don't know if that was intentional, but that's just something I picked up on
probably,
it.
probably.
And you looked at and how when they're chasing, when the boys went into the hotel to capture the ghost, the first success. You had that same kind of thing going on inside the barn. They're trying to go after it, and then they chase it. And I just got to say that joyride of them tearing up the city, the little town. Oh my God, that thing whipping out of the barn and going down the street. And I got to tell you, kudos, loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for putting that in. As a car guy, I love watching that 7,000-pound vehicle. That's 7,000 pounds, folks. That's like 2 times the amount of what you're driving around today, whipping around, and like throwing that sucker around.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
it was kicking ass.
It makes you think, of them being back in the town, coming out of the
Absolutely.
farmhouse, going right around that corner and hitting it, which again, I just, it was it was a long wait, but it was a well-deserved watch. It really
Sure.
was.
So we get into it, and then obviously there's a revisiting of other scenes, when Zool and obviously her guard dog, so to speak.
Yeah, the terror dog.
Yeah, you have that there. I mean, all that fun. But the magical point for me was, implied was when the original Ghostbusters showed up in the final confrontation. I'm going to tell you right now, that was magical. Everybody, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah. It was like, wow, they did it.
It made me, it made that wait, I've been waiting since 1989, to see them back again. It made that wait so emotional. So when it finally showed them, I could say it with confidence, man. I was crying, I was applauding, I was crying. And then when you see the assist by Egon,
yes,
I started bawling like a little schoolgirl. But again, it wasn't just me. I'm looking around and I'm seeing people my age, I'm seeing people 40 plus doing the same thing. That was one of the very few, and I've been to so many different viewings and stuff of, being from Burbank. I've seen everything and anything you can probably think of in a theater. To be able to see other people such as myself getting out of their seat and clapping, to finally see that. I mean, that was amazing. Even after the movie was over, once the movie was over, everybody stood up like as we were in an auditorium and clapped. It was just, it was so emotional. It was so well worth it.
I think the key factor was that it's a fine line. It was a fine line on how they introduced Harold in there. And the beauty of it is that they took away the thing that would probably push it over the edge with him speaking.
Yeah.
He didn't have to speak.
No.
His actions, his presence, his guidance from behind.
Which also was felt, throughout the movie. I mean, we knew what was happening when stuff started to move around the house. We knew that was Egon.
Right.
But still, to be able to be like, dude, like he's still here. I mean, not only as in, Egon, but to know that, Harold Ramis's, spirit is still here, regardless of him not being here,
Well, we're gonna see that on, obviously the producer has alluded and the director alluded to a sequel to that. I don't like the word sequel. I think just a continuation of the story and let new stories be created and developed. We've had enough Easter eggs on this stuff. If you want to look at, the animated series, you look at those, it evolved. And as you said, it evolved and it had new characters. And that was always the goal, I think, of Aykroyd.
Very good.
Yeah, exactly. They're there for a reason. And the beauty of it is that, like I said, Ramis, his presence there was louder than anything anybody could say. Yeah. But I have to say, when Murray learned and turned and looked over at him, and he ushered the words, it was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. That was cool. Again, kudos to Aykroyd, the Ramos family for allowing this to happen because
Yeah.
they had to participate in it. His daughter
Yeah,
comes on
violently.
social media and she must be very proud of this because honestly, we did not know him like she would know him or the
Uh-uh.
other cast members, but you know what? We feel like we know him. And
Right.
this was really quite nice to have that. And again, watching those guys there and then as it was, and I thought the whole final scene was Zool and whatnot. They did a great job with that. Would you agree? Are you a god?
Yeah.
Are you a god? And Winston, Ray, you know, yeah. I
All of
think
it.
this time we better answer that the right way, you know. And so I've only seen the movie once. I plan on
Yep.
taking my son again to see it a second, probably 2, 3. I know when it comes out on Blu-ray, probably in the spring, I'll own it proudly. And
Oh,
I got to say, it is just a great feeling to be able to say I'm a Ghostbuster fan and
right.
that there are millions of them around the world, that love it, guys like yourself and everyone else. And listen, there's a lot of room for everybody. Everybody should embrace these things and embrace everybody and look at it as we work together and we do this right thing. We have greatness in front of us.
Definitely. We do.
And so with that in mind, it's time to conclude. Any final thoughts? And with me, I'm putting on my hat because it's the end. Talk to me, sir. Give me a final conclusion on this here, Ralphie.
Conclusion, I would say that this whole story that we have so far was left not only on a funny little footnote because we know something is coming. To anybody that hasn't seen Afterlife yet, I would strongly suggest you strap up, get the suit on, zip it on up, and become a Ghostbuster and go and see it because it is well worth the wait. It is well worth the 30 plus years to see what everybody else has been raving about. And it really is. I mean, I don't know, like you just said, I'm going to go and see it again. I'm probably going to tear up again and giggle like a little schoolgirl and cry and all that stuff. Yeah, it's magic. This franchise is magic on
I got
top
the
of,
tissue for you, buddy.
there you go, man.
Too
There
bad
you
you're down
go.
in Arizona and he's not here in Vegas. You
Right.
said that eloquently. I think everybody that walks into that theater wants to see something fun, wants
Yeah.
to have that moment. And my little guy, he walked in 6.5, and he's a fan of the Ghostbusters, as you probably know, and he just loves it. And he likes 1 and 2, and he's seen 16 and this one, and he ranked them the original 84 and the Afterlife 1, 2 for him. And he was
That's cool.
sitting across from me in his Ghostbuster shirt with his Ghostbuster hat on. And he spent a lot of time showing everybody his Ghostbusters badge. So I'm a Ghostbuster. Oh, wow. And he was sitting in and he was laughing and going, oh, that's cool. And he was just looking, Daddy, yeah. And sitting there enjoying his popcorn and his soda. And you know what? I lived through his eyes again. And I was with him. And it was a perfect moment. And I want to say thank you, Ralph, for sharing
No, of
personal
course.
moments of your life and your family. And what an appropriate gift to give to everybody during this holiday season, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas holiday going into the new year. And, folks, everything is there for you. The greatest gift you can share with anybody is love. And I know there's such love here in the Ghostbusters community. So with no further ado, thank you, Ralph. Appreciate it. Why don't you say the name of your
Yeah,
website again? So if
no
anybody
problem.
wants to
If
reach
you
out to
guys
you.
are into the whole ghost busting thing, and you guys want to get yourself some ectoplasm, which we do have here at etsy.com/shop/the movie alchemist. That is etsy.com/shop/the movie alchemist. Come and pay us a visit, and remember, busting makes us feel good.
Absolutely. Paul Casey Entertainment, paulcasey.vegas is our main website. On it, you'll find all of our events, Las Vegas Car Stars, the Abbey Road Crossing with the Beatles celebration, which is coming up very soon. Imagine celebration in December. We always do that around the December the 8th. We do the Halloween, Sin City Halloween. We also have Las Vegas Ghostbusters, and we support everybody. So everybody is welcome. If you have something you want to share with us, let us know. We'll put it out there. Thank you so much, Ralph. Thank you, everybody. And who are you going to call? Thank you so much. God bless you.
All right, brother.
Peace.
Have a good one.